The Urantia book, section 3, The History of Urantia, paper 106, Universe Levels of Reality. It is not enough that the ascending mortal should know something of the relations of deity to the genesis and manifestation of cosmic reality. He should also comprehend something of the relationships existing between himself and the numerous levels of existential and experiential realities, of potential and actual realities. Man's terrestrial orientation, his cosmic insight, and his spiritual directionization are all enhanced by a better comprehension of universe realities and their techniques of interassociation, integration, and unification. The present grand universe and the emerging master universe are made up of many forms and phases of reality, which in turn are existent on several levels of functional activity. The manifold existents and latents have been previously suggested in all the papers so far read, which is section 1 and section 2, and several sections of section 3. These manifold existents and latents have been previously suggested in these papers, and they are now grouped for conceptual convenience in the following categories: 1. Incomplete finites, 2. Maximum finites, 3. Transcendentals, and 4. Ultimates, 5. Co-absolutes, 6. Absolutes, and 7. Infinity. And infinity is this level is pre-existential and post-experiential. Unqualified unity of infinity is a hypothetical reality before all beginnings and after all destinies. All these mentioned levels of reality are convenient, comprise symbolizations of the present universe age, and for the mortal perspective, there are a number of other ways of looking at reality from other than mortal perspective, and from the standpoint of other universe ages. Well, we are not in these universe ages, and I do not know why they are mentioned in such a not really important message here. Thus, it should be recognized that the concepts here presented are entirely relative in the sense of being conditioned and limited by 1. The limitations of mortal language, 2. The limitations of the mortal mind, 3. The limited development of the 7 super universes, and 4. Your ignorance of the 6 prime purposes of super universe development, which do not pertain to the mortal ascent to paradise. Well, that's because we are lacking to pray for higher spiritual truths, because we lack hunger and thirst to and for them. And number 5, your inability to grasp even a partial eternity viewpoint. 6, the impossibility of depicting cosmic evolution and destiny in relation to all universe ages, not just in regard to the present age of the evolutionary unfolding of the 7 super universes. And then this last, I thought I was already there, but point 7 is the inability of any creature to grasp what is really meant by pre-existentials or by post-experientials. Well, to be very honest, I'm wondering how many percent of the human race will understand the things that are described in this Urantia book, especially section 1 and 2. But anyways, just start reading the book, because you fill your soul with it, and in the next level of your existence, then it's quite handy that you already have some familiarness with this information. Don't worry, you don't need to know the whole book from A to Z, because if you go to the first mentioned world, you will go to a class where all this is being taught again. And then you have all the named limits and limites, whatever you want to name it, limitations. You don't have these anymore, because you're not a mortal human anymore. So just start reading the book. Don't worry if you don't get any understanding of it. Just read it in your own pace, and ask the help of the Spirit of Truth and the Holy Spirit to help you to get some understanding of it. But to really understand, especially section 1 and section 2, that can take 20 to 30 at least years to get a bit understanding of what is being spoken of in these sections. That which lies before beginnings and after destinies. Actually, to be very honest, I think that the presentation of this fifth epochal revelation has came a bit, in my opinion, and as I see it, a bit too late. They should have given this to humanity at least 100 years ago. Reality growth is conditioned by the circumstances of the successive universe ages. The central universe underwent no evolutionary change in the Havona age, but in the present epochs of the super universe age, it is undergoing certain progressive changes induced by coordination with the evolutionary super universes. The 7 super universes now evolving will sometimes attain the settled status of light and life. Yes, sometime count out that it will take at least a few billion years. Will attain the growth limit for the present universe age, but beyond doubt the next age, the age of the first outer space level, will release the super universes from the destiny limitations of the present age. Repletion is continually being superimposed upon completion. There are some of the limitations which we encounter in attempting to present a unified concept of the cosmic growth of things, meanings and values, and other syntheses on ever ascending levels of reality. And my excuse for the background, I have 2 kitties and they reach their puberty, and always when I start to read they are very ADHD, and I living in just a 1 apartment room, so I can't put them away. One primary association of finite functionals. The primary or spirit origin phases of finite reality find immediate expression on creature levels as perfect personalities, and on universe levels as the perfect Havona creation. Even experiential deity is thus expressed in the spirits or spirit person of God the Supreme in Havona. But the secondary evolutionary time and matter conditioned phases of the finite becomes cosmically integrated only as a result of growth and attainment. Eventually all secondary or perfecting finites are to attain a level equal to that of primary perfection, but such destiny is subject to a time delay, a constitutive super-universe qualification which is not genetically found in the central creation. This super-universe time lack, this so-called obstacle to perfection attainment, provides for creature participation in evolutionary growth. Now we know why we have been created, because we are nothing more than just an ordinary extension of God himself. Just as the celestial beings are also nothing more than an extension of the Creator God himself. It thus makes it possible for the creature to enter into partnership with the Creator in the evolution of that self-same creature. And during these times of expanding growth, the incomplete is correlated with the perfect fruit and ministry of God the sevenfold. God the sevenfold signifies the recognition by paradise deity of the so-called barriers of time in the evolutionary universes of space, no matter how remote from God the sevenfold, how remote from paradise, how deep in space a material survival personality may take origin, God the sevenfold will be found there, present and engaged in the loving and merciful ministry of truth, beauty and goodness to such an incomplete, struggling and an evolutionary creature. The divinity ministry of the sevenfold reaches inward through the eternal Son to Paradise Father, and outward through the ancients of days to the universe fathers. Now they speak about universe fathers. There's just one universe father, so that S is incorrect. Ancients of days to the universe father dash the Creator sons and his Creator sons. This formulation of this sentence is not correct. Man being personal and ascending by spiritual progression finds the personal and spiritual divinity of the sevenfold of deity, but there are other phases of the sevenfold which are not concerned with the progression of personality. The divinity aspects of this deity grouping are at present integrated in the liaison between the seven master spirits and the conjoined actor / infinite spirit, but they are destined to be eternally unified in the emerging personality of the Supreme Being, which is also God. The other phases of the sevenfold deity, which is also God, are variously integrated in the present universe age, but all are likewise destined to be unified in the Supreme and thus in God. The sevenfold in all phases is the source of the relative unity of the functional reality of the present grand universe. God has just 7 forms, seven, you can say, aspects, layers, whatever you want to name it, but all is still God. So the God the sevenfold is still God the Creator himself. 2. Secondary supreme finite integration. The concept of the supreme must provide for the differential recognition of spirit person, evolutionary power, and power dash personality synthesis dash the unification of evolutionary power with and its dominance by spirit personality. Spirit, in the last analysis, comes from paradise through Havona. Energy matter seemingly evolves in the depths of space and is organized as power by the children of the infinite, which are the paradise creators, the paradise creator sons. And the children of the infinite spirit, this is the universe mother spirits and the local universe mother spirits, as well as the angels and so on. In conjunction with the creator sons of God, and all of this is experiential. It is a transaction in time and space involving a wide range of living beings, including even creator divinities and evolutionary creatures, better said mortals. The power mastery of the creator divinities in the grand universe slowly expands to encompass the evolutionary mortal settling and stabilizing of time and space creations. And this is the flowering of the experiential power of God the sevenfold, which is still God himself. It encompasses the whole gamut of divinity attainment in time and space, from the adjuster bestowals of the universal Father to the life bestowals of the paradise sons. This is earned power, demonstrated power, experiential power. It stands in contrast to the eternity power, the unfathomable power, the existential power of the paradise deities. This experiential power, arising out of the divinity achievements of God the sevenfold and thus God itself, manifests the cohesive qualities of divinity by synthesizing, totalizing as the almighty power of the attained experiential mastery of the cohesion on the pilot sphere of the outer belt of Havona worlds in union with the spirit personality of the Havona presence of God the Supreme, which is still God himself, just another part of God himself. Thus, and this God the Supreme is in actuality the God of time and space, and thus the finite God. Eventually everything from time and space goes into the Supreme, and the Supreme merges eventually, so that part of God eventually merges with the primal cause, or better known as the Paradise Father himself. So that is in actuality what God the Supreme is. It is God that is, you can say controlling, ruling, whatever, the time and space, all the worlds and constellations and inhabitants and whatever that are part of the time and space. Time and this whole idea of time. As soon as you go into the Havona, one of the billion worlds of Havona, then you finally step out of time, and you do not have to do anything anymore with time. You have become completely timeless. The Havona citizens are all living timelessness. They don't know what time is. Thus, and this almighty power in turn finds a spirit personality cohesion on the pilot sphere of the outer belt of Havona worlds in union with the spirit personality of the Havona presence of God the Supreme. Thus does experiential deity culminate the long evolutionary struggle by investing the power product of time and space with the spirit presence and divine personality resident in the central creation. Does the Supreme Being eventually attain to the embrace of all of everything evolving in time and space, while investing these qualities with spirit personality, since creatures, even mortals, are personality participants in this majestic transaction. So do they certainly attain the capacity to know the Supreme and thus to know God, and to perceive the Supreme as true and to perceive the Supreme as true children of such an evolutionary deity. So then we are able, actually, the most simple way to say it is then we finally will discover God and get in connection with God. That's what it's actually saying, but they need a lot of words for just one simple sentence. That is what it's being said here. That we, children of God, then get to know through God the Supreme, which is God still, we get to know God. And we get to know God because the thought adjuster that is in us is a God the Father fragment of the Paradise Father himself, and that fragment works with God the Supreme Being, the God of the finite, which is still a piece of the Paradise Father himself that is localized in time and space. So that part of God is experiencing what life in time and space really means, what time really means, what it means to be bounded by time. That is what it actually is. God is experiencing itself in many, many ways, through many, many things, through all the celestials that he has created, and celestials are the mighty messengers, the Melchizedeks, the ancients of days, the morning stars, the evening stars, the midwayers, the life carriers, solitary messengers, the Veranda decks, the Lanonon decks, you name it, all the celestial creatures, messengers and helpers that he has created, through all of them, because all of them are an outstretched arm of God himself, and through all of them, and also through all mortals, not only in this world but in all worlds in this local universe as well as in universe of universes, we all are an extension of God himself, through which God is experiencing himself in actuality. And all the experiences that we are undergoing is being collected in the Supreme Being, and eventually you can say that the Supreme, or better said, you can say that the Supreme Being functions, that part of God functions as a storage in which all experiences of each one of us is being collected. And each one of us means all the inhabitants of this local universe, as well as of all universe of universes that function in time and space frames. And so this part of God eventually functions as an archive, as a library, and when the time is there, God himself retracts that back, that part of his, back to himself, and then all these experiences will be integrated in himself. And from there he creates new things, and from there the experiences are then being very handy if you as God are creating life in the outer space levels, which is already going on. God is already creating this. The first outer space level is already in the making. Michael of Nebadon is like the Paradise Father because he shares his paradise perfection. So will evolutionary mortals sometime attain to kinship with the experiential supreme, for they will truly share this evolutionary perfection. So we are all part of God's plan, and that is why it is for many so very much difficult to understand that all the pain, suffering, and things that we need to go through in the mortal realm, in our mortal life, is part of God's plan. Many people have difficulties with that. And why is this? Because many people have a rosy colored image of God. They see him as the ultimate source of love that doesn't do any harm and is only love, peace, and quietness, and is not a being that should allow all this pain and suffering. Well, then I wake you up and say that that is a rosy colored imagination of God the Father, God the Paradise Father. We should understand that God, the Paradise Father, wants to experience himself and life in many ways. So suffering, disappointments, and pain, and all the things that we are going through as mortals, he wants to experience what that is. And each person brings a different type of experience in that. And second, and actually that is also the first, because our soul is created by God himself. Yeah, so we also experience this because our soul needs to grow, and if we do not experience this, we would have been still on child level of, let's say, a 1-year-old in everything. And better said, then we would not be as what we have become now. Then we would still be beasts. As a matter of fact, we are still beasts, because that beast level eventually is being shed off when we finally have succeeded the seventh mention world. If we have succeeded the seventh mention world, then finally this beast level, this animal level, this animalness in us is then finally done. And then we can shed that off. So yeah, the message here is actually go start learning yourselves with getting to learn yourselves how to deal with disappointments, how to deal with pain, how to deal with suffering, and so on. And the Bible has taught people wrongly and actually falsely about the fact that Jesus will take away all your sorrows and problems, and he will deliver you from any imaginable and unimaginable things. But this is not true. Jesus, in the Urantia book, in which you can read the full life story of Jesus, there it is clearly stated by Jesus himself that he never shall deliver us from anything. which is quite logic, because if he would deliver us from each and everything, then we do not learn. We do not learn to cope with the things that we need to deal with. What he says is, I am always at your side. You can ask for my help, and I will help you to show you and to teach you how to overcome the situation that you are in. I have had recently a situation, in which I asked the help of the Father and thus also of Jesus. And then I got the answer: let wisdom and righteousness reign above your human emotions. Set your human emotions aside in this situation and see for what it really is. And if you start seeing it for what it really is, then you can let go of it, and then you can walk through this situation with more ease than if you would allow your human emotions to handle the situation, which would make the situation only more worse than is needed. And for each and every situation, he has a different answer and approach for you to overcome the situation. And we need to learn how to overcome situations in life. We need to learn how to overcome disappointments. We need to learn how to overcome the way others are treating us. We need to learn how to overcome the obstacles and challenges that life, mortal life, is presenting us on a daily basis. And if we start to learn to work in togetherness with Christ Michael, Jesus of Nazareth, then we become more adult human spiritual beings. And see this life in the mortal realm as a gigantic teaching and school. It is a school in which we are, and it is the first level of the long ascension path to paradise that we can choose. You don't have to choose for it. It is a free will choice. It is a free will choice for you if you want to go on and continue to the next level, or if you say, well, this whole ascension, yeah, I don't know, and whatever. But that's your free will choice. God does not enforce you to choose for that path. And so this whole idea of the broad road and the narrow road, let it all be set aside you. There's no purpose at all. There's just one path of ascension, one path that leads you to paradise and to a light and life. So this said, I continue with the rest of the text. So Michael of Nebadon is like the Paradise Father because he shares his paradise perfection. So will evolutionary mortals sometimes attain to kinship with the experiential Supreme, for they will truly share his evolutionary perfection. Eventually, yeah. God the Supreme is experiential, therefore is he completely experienceable. The existential realities of the seven absolutes are not perceivable by the technique of experience. Only the personality realities of the Father, Son, and Spirit, infinite Spirit, can be grasped by the personality of the finite creature in the prayer worship attitude. Within the completed power personality synthesis of the Supreme Being, there will be associated all of the absoluteness of the several triodities, which could be so associated, and this majestic personality of evolution will be experientially attainable and understandable by all finite personalities. Well, then this is something you do not understand in this life, but you start to understand it as soon as you choose for going the path of ascension that leads you to paradise and enlightened life. When ascenders attain the postulated seventh stage of spirit existence, they will therein experience the realization of a new meaning, value of the absoluteness and infinity of the triodities as such is revealed on sub-absolute levels in the Supreme Being who is experienceable. But the attainment of these stages of maximum development will probably await the coordinate settling of the entire grand universe in light and life. What I find sometimes very unhandy is that they are using words which makes the text more complicated than it should have to be. Yeah, again, do not worry if you don't get a thing of it, because your brain hardly can cope with the information that is presented to you, but hear it, and otherwise I would say and encourage you to buy yourselves a copy of the Urantia book yourselves and go read it in your own pace with the help of the Spirit of Truth and the Holy Spirit, and also with the help of the thought adjuster. 3. Transcendental tertiary reality association. The absolute architects eventuate the plan, the supreme creators bring it into existence, the supreme being will consummate its fullness as it was time created by the supreme creators, and as it was space forecast by the master architects during the present universe age. The administrative coordination of the master universe is the function of the architects of the master universe, but the appearance of the Almighty Supreme at the termination of the present universe age will signify that the evolutionary finite has attained the first stage of experiential destiny. This happening will certainly lead to the completed function of the first experiential trinity dash the union of the supreme creators with the supreme being and the architects of the master universe. This trinity is destined to affect the further evolutionary integration of the master creation. Destined to affect the further evolutionary integration of the master creation. Destined to affect the further evolutionary integration, of the master creation. Sorry for saying it 3 times. The Paradise Trinity is truly one of infinity, and no trinity can possibly be infinite. That does not include this original trinity, but the original trinity is an eventuality of the exclusive association of absolute deities, sub-absolute beings. Had nothing to do with this primal association. The subsequently appearing and experiential trinities embrace the contributions of even creature personalities. Oh, certainly, this is true of the Trinity Ultimate, wherein the very presence of the Master Creator, sons among the Supreme Creator, members thereof betokens the concomitant presence of actual and bona fide creature experience within this Trinity association. I can imagine that a lot of people will lose track. The first experiential Trinity provides for group attainment of ultimate eventualities. Group associations are enabled to anticipate, even to transcend individual capacities, and this is true even beyond a finite level. In the ages to come, after the 7 super universes have been finally settled in light and life, and one age is 1,000 years, so ages, that means more than 2,000 of years, light and life, the corpse of the finality will doubtless be promulgating the purposes of the paradise deities as they are dictated by the Trinity Ultimate, and as they are power personality unified in the Supreme Being, God of the finite. And still God, actually the Paradise Father, because the Supreme Being again is a part of the Paradise Father himself. Throughout all the gigantic universe developments of the past and future eternity, we detect the expansion of the comprehensible elements of the Universal Father as the I Am, better said as the primal cause. We philosophically postulate his permeation of total infinity, but no creature is able experientially to encompass such a postulate. As the universes expand and as gravity and love reach out into time-organizing space, we are able to understand more and more of the first source and center. We observe gravity action penetrating the space presence of the unqualified absolute, and we detect spirit creatures evolving and expanding within the divinity presence of the deity absolute, while both cosmic and spirit evolution are by mind and experience unifying on finite deity levels as the Supreme Being, and are coordinating on transcendental levels as the Trinity Ultimate. How much of these are they? Oh my gosh. I'm going to rush it up because I'm already at 43 minutes and we're just at point 4, and there are at least 9 or 10 points. This is of course again a far too long paper, so I'm going to speed up my otherwise I do not make it in 1 hour and 30 minutes, because that is the max time I spent on this paper, because I know that the attention span of the majority of the human race is not that great anymore. Point 4 of ultimate quartan integration. The Paradise Trinity certainly coordinates in the ultimate sense, but functions in this respect as a self-qualified absolute. The experiential Trinity ultimate coordinates the transcendent. Sorry, that was a kitty that is hurting me. Absolute, start over again. The Paradise Trinity certainly coordinates in the ultimate sense, but functions In this respect, as a self-qualified absolute, the experiential trinity ultimate coordinates the transcendental as a transcendental. In the eternal future, this experiential trinity will, through our augmenting unity, further activate the eventuating presence of ultimate deity. I can really read that this entire book is actually written by a male principality, which means male principle, because only males are able to explain things in very complex terminology. Females are lesser with that. They are far more able to explain the things lesser complex. While the Trinity Ultimate is destined to coordinate the master creation, God the Ultimate is the transcendental power personalization of the directionization of the entire master universe. Why am I saying this? Because you can read that all the celestials that have worked on this book are actually working from the male mindset, and I miss actually the integration also of the female mindset. And I think that they were very into the idea that humanity can understand the way they describe things. But to be very honest, the majority of those who read the Urantia book after 10-20 years still have difficulties in understanding the concepts described in the book. And that is due to the fact how they are explaining the things to humans. They forget that humanity is not that quick in understanding the things. For them, this knowledge is a piece of cake. It's not difficult. For them, this is kindergarten level, but for us, this is not kindergarten level. And sometimes I've wished that they would have made it more easily to read, because the way they are describing things with so many very complex, by the use of many complex words, I can imagine that many people do not truly understand what they are actually reading. The completed eventuation of the ultimate implies the completion of the master creation and connotes the full emergence of this transcendental deity. Last piece, what changes will be inaugurated by the full emergence of the ultimate, we do not know. But as the Supreme is now spiritually and personally present in Avona, so also is the ultimate there present, but in the absonite and super personal sense. And you have been informed of the existence of the qualified vicegerents of the ultimate, though you have not been informed of their present whereabouts or function. But irrespective of the administrative repercussions attendant upon the emergence of the ultimate deity, the personal values of his transcendental divinity will be experienceable by all personalities who have been participants in the actualization of this deity level. Transcendence of the finite can lead only to ultimate attainment. God the ultimate exists in transcendence of time and space, but is nonetheless sub-absolute, notwithstanding inherent capacity for functional association with absoluteness. Point 5. Co-absolute or fifth phase association. The ultimate is the apex of transcendental reality, even as the supreme is the capstone of evolutionary experiential reality, and the actual emergence of these two experiential deities lays the foundation for the second experiential trinity. This is the Trinity Absolute, the union of God the Supreme, God the Ultimate, and the unrevealed consummator of universe destiny. And this Trinity has theoretical capacity to activate the absoluteness of potentiality, deity, universal, and unqualified. But the completed formation of this Trinity Absolute could take place only after the completed evolution of the entire master universe from Havona to the fourth and outermost space levels. Wow. It should be made clear that these experiential trinities are correlative, not only of the personality qualities of experiential divinity, but also of all the other than personal qualities which characterizes their attained deity unity. While this presentation deals primarily with the personal phases of the unification of the cosmos, it is nonetheless true that the impersonal aspects of the universe of universes are likewise destined to undergo unification, as is illustrated by the power personality synthesis now going on in connection with the evolution of the Supreme Being. The spirit-personal qualities of the Supreme are inseparable from the power prerogatives of the Almighty, and both are complemented by the unknown potential of the Supreme Mind. Neither can God, the Ultimate, as a person be considered apart from the other than personal aspects of the ultimate deity. And on the absolute level of deity and the unqualified absolute are inseparable as and indistinguishable in the presence of the universal absolute. Universal absolute, that is the Paradise Father. Trinities are in and of themselves not personal, but neither do they contravene personality. Rather do they encompass it and correlate it in a collective sense with impersonal functions. Trinities are then always deity reality, but never personality reality. The personality aspects of a trinity are inherent in its individual members, and as the individual persons, they are not that trinity. Only as a collective are they trinity that is trinity. But always is trinity inclusive of all encompassed deity. Trinity is deity unity. Who has written this paper? Oh, A. Melchizedek, yeah. All right. The three absolutes deity, universal, and unqualified are not trinity. For all are not deity. Only the deified can become trinity. All other associations are triunities or triodities. Point 6. Absolute or sixth phase integration. Come on. If we assume a cosmos infinite some illimitable cosmos on beyond the master universe, and if we conceive that the final developments of the absolute trinity will take place out on such a super ultimate stage of action, then it becomes possible to conjecture that the completed function of the Trinity Absolute will achieve final expression in the creations of infinity and will consummate the absolute actualization of all potentials, the integration and association of ever-enlarging segments of reality will approach absoluteness of status proportional to the inclusion of all reality within the segments thus associated. Stated otherwise. We do not know how an absolute function can achieve total expression on a qualified, limited or otherwise restricted basis. Shall we ever come to know this? I don't know. And to be honest, I think we shall never come to know this. Hence, we must assume that any such totality function will be unconditioned in potential, and it would also appear that the unconditioned would also be unlimited, at least from a qualitative standpoint, though we are not so sure regarding quantitative relationships. Trinity Absolute may be thought of as culminating in some kind of experientialization of the absolutes of potentiality. This would appear to be a reasonable conclusion with respect to the universal absolute, if not the unqualified absolute. At least we know that the universal absolute is not only static and potential, but also associative in the total deity sense of those words. But in regard to the conceivable values of divinity and personalities, these conjectured happenings imply the personalization of the deity absolute and the appearance of those superpersonal values and those ultra-personal meanings inherent in the personality completion of God the Absolute, the third and last of the experiential deities. 7. Finality of destiny. While some of the difficulties in forming concepts of infinite reality integration are inherent in the fact that all such ideas embrace something of the finality of universal development, some kind of an experiential realization of all that could ever be, and it is conceivable that quantitative infinity could ever be completely realized in finality. Always there must remain unexplored possibilities in the three potentials. Alright. Destiny is established by the volitional act of deities who constitute the paradise trinity. Destiny is established in the vastness of the three great potentials whose absoluteness encompasses the possibilities of all future development. Destiny is probably consummated by the act of the consummator of universe destiny, and this act is probably involved with the supreme and the universe destiny, and this act is probably involved with the supreme and the ultimate in the Trinity Absolute. No matter how much you may grow in Father comprehension, your mind will always be staggered by the unrevealed infinity of the Father I am, the unexplored vastness of which will always remain unfathomable and incomprehensible throughout all the cycles of eternity. No matter how much of God you may attain, there will always remain much more of Him, the existence of which you will not even suspect. And we believe that this is just as true on transcendental levels as it is in the domains of finite existence. The so-called quest for God is endless. Such inability to attain God in a final sense should in no manner discourage universe creatures. Indeed, you can and do attain deity levels of the sevenfold, the supreme and the ultimate, which mean to you what the infinite realization of God the Father means to the eternal Son and to the infinite Spirit in their absolute status of eternity existence. Far from harassing the creature, the infinity of God should be supreme assurance that throughout all endless futurity and an ascending personality will have before him the possibilities of personality development and deity association, which even eternity will neither exhaust nor terminate. The finite creatures of the grand universe, the concept of the master universe seems to be well nigh infinite, but doubtless the absonite architects thereof perceive its relatedness to future and unimagined developments within the unending I Am. Even space itself is but an ultimate condition, a condition of qualification within the relative absoluteness of the quiet zones of mid-space at the inconceivably distant future eternity moment of the final completion of the entire master universe. No doubt we will all look back upon its entire history as only the beginning, simply the creation of certain finite and transcendental foundations for even greater and more enthralling metamorphosis in uncharted infinity. At such a future eternity moment, the master universe will still seem youthful. Indeed, it will be always young in the face of the limitless possibilities of never-ending eternity. Such eventualities are rather remote, to say the least. Nevertheless, in the mechanisms personalities and associations of the three trinities, we believe we detect the theoretical possibilities of the reuniting of the seven absolute faces of the Father I Am, and this brings us face to face with the concept of the threefold Trinity encompassing the Paradise Trinity of existential status and the two subsequently appearing Trinities of experiential nature and origin. Point 8. The Trinity of Trinities. The nature of the Trinity of Trinities is difficult to portray to the human mind. Yes, shall always be. It is the actual summation of the entirety of experiential infinity, as such is manifested in a theoretical infinity of eternity realization. In the Trinity of Trinities, the experiential infinite attains to identify with the existential infinite, and both are as one in the pre-experiential, pre-existential. I don't know, but this Melchizedek is for me a sort of person that is really not able to speak simply. And to write the things down simply. Pre-existential I am. The Trinity of Trinities is the final expression of all that is implied in the 15 triunities and associated triodities. Finalities are difficult for relative beings to comprehend, be they existential or experiential. Therefore must they always be presented as relativities. The Trinity of Trinities exists in several phases. It contains possibilities, probabilities, and inevitabilities that stagger the imaginations of beings far above the human level. It has implications that are probably unsuspected by the celestial philosophers, for its implications are in the triunities, and the triunities are in the last analysis unfathomable. There are a number of ways in which the Trinity of Trinities can be portrayed. We elect to present the three-level concept, which is as follows. Level 1, the level of the three Trinities. Level 2, the level of experiential deity. And level 3, which is the level of the I am. These are levels of increasing unifications. Actually, the Trinity of Trinities is the first level. Yeah, that's what it's being stated. While the second and the third levels are unification derivatives of the first level. Well, the first level is 1, the Paradise Trinity, 2, the Ultimate Trinity, and 3, the Absolute Trinity. The second level is the coordination of the three Trinities inevitably involves the associative union of the experiential deities who are genetically associated within these Trinities. The nature of this second level has been sometimes presented as 1, the Supreme, 2, the Ultimate, and 3, the Absolute. And then we have the third level. The third level is an unqualified hypothesis of the second level of the Trinity of Trinities. There is embraced the correlation of every phase of every kind of reality that is or was or could be in the entirety of infinity. Okay. Yes. The Supreme Being is not only spirit, but also mind and power and experience. The ultimate is all this and much more, while in the conjoined concept of the oneness of the deity, universal and unqualified absoluteness. Or absolute, sorry. There is included the absolute finality of all reality, realization in the union of the Supreme, Ultimate, and the complete Absolute. There could occur the functional assembly of those aspects of infinity which were originally segmentalized by the I Am, and which resulted in the appearance of the 7 Absolutes. We do not know, but we are confident that it would lead directly to the realization of the I Am as an experiential attainable from the standpoint of personal beings. It could mean that the unknowable I Am had become experienceable as the Father-infinite. The I am is the Father dash infinite. So I don't know what he's talking about here. What these absolute destinies might mean from a non-personal standpoint is another matter, and one which only eternity could possibly clarify. But as we view these remote eventualities as personal creatures, we deduce that the final destiny of all personalities is the final knowing of the universal Father of these self-same personalities. As we philosophically conceive of the I am in past eternity, he is alone, there is none beside him. Looking forward into future eternity, we do not see that the I am could possibly change as an existential, but we are inclined to forecast a vast experiential difference. Such a concept of the I am implies full self-realization dash it embraces that limitless galaxy of personalities who have become volitional participants in the self dash revelation of the I am, and who will remain eternally as absolute volitional parts of the totality of infinity. Final, better said, comma, final sons of the absolute Father. And then the last one, existential infinite unification. In the concept of the Trinity of Trinities, we postulate a possible experiential unification of limitless reality. And we sometimes theorize that all this may happen in the utter remoteness of far distant eternity, but there is nonetheless an actual and present unification of infinity in this very age, as in all past and future universe ages. Such unification is existential in the paradise Trinity. Infinity unification as an experiential reality is unthinkably remote, but an unqualified unity of infinity now dominates the present moment of universe existence and unites the divergencies of all reality with an existential majesty that is absolute. When finite creatures attempt to conceive, hopefully, of infinite unification on the finality levels of the consummated eternity, they are face to face with intellect limitations inherent in their infinite existences. Time, space, and experience constitute barriers to creature concept, and yet without time apart from space and except for experience, no creature could achieve even a limited comprehension of universe reality. Without time sensitivity, no evolutionary creature could possibly perceive the relations of sequence. Without space perception, no creature could fathom the relations of simultaneity. Well, we still do not understand a word of what life is, let alone what is being stated here. All right. Without time, without experience, no evolutionary creature could even exist. Only the seven absolutes of infinity really transcend experience, and even these may be experiential in certain phases. Time, space, and experience are man's greatest aids to relative reality perception, and yet his most formidable obstacles to complete reality perception. Mortals and many other universe creatures find it necessary to think of potentials as being actualized in space and evolving to fruition in time. But this entire process is a time-space phenomenon which does not actually take place on paradise and in eternity. On the absolute level, there is neither time nor space. No, because we have been through all that nonsense. So, of course, there is no time because paradise is timeless. On the absolute level, there is neither time nor space. All potentials may be there perceived as just actuals. The concept of the unification of all reality, be it in this or in any other universe age, is basically twofold: existential and experiential. Such a unity is in process of experiential realization in the Trinity of Trinities, but the degree of the apparent actualization of this threefold Trinity is directly proportional to the disappearance of the qualifications and imperfections of reality in the cosmos, but total integration of reality is unqualifiedly and eternally and existentially present in the Paradise Trinity. Well, this Melchizedek loves very complicated words. Within which at this very universe moment infinite reality is absolutely unified. The human concept of the gradual experiential actualization of the Trinity of Trinities dash the time viewpoint dash must be supplemented by the additional postulate. This is already a factualization dash the eternity viewpoint. But how can these two viewpoints be reconciled to finite mortals? We suggest the acceptance of the truth that the Paradise Trinity is the existential unification of infinity, and that the inability to detect the actual presence and completed manifestation of the experiential Trinity of Trinities is in part due to reciprocal distortion because of 1. The limited human viewpoints, 2. The imperfect human status, 3. The purpose of human existence. The Universal Father in the Paradise Trinity is the I Am of the Trinity of Trinities, and the failure to experience the Father as infinite is due to finite limitations. The concept of the existential, solitary, pre-Trinity, non-attainable I Am, and the postulate of the experiential post-Trinity of Trinities and attainable I Am are one and the same hypothesis. No actual change has taken place in the infinite. All apparent developments are due to increased capacities for reality reception and cosmic appreciations. And then last, sooner or later, all universe personalities begin to realize, hopefully, that the final quest of eternity is the endless exploration of infinity, the never-ending voyage of discovery into the absoluteness of the first source and center. We arrive at the understanding that living the will of God is the eternal passport to the endless possibility of infinity itself. Mortals will sometime realize that success in the quest of the infinite is directly proportional to the achievement of Father-likeness, and that in this universe age the realities of the Father are revealed within the qualities of divinity, and these qualities of divinity are personally appropriated by universe creatures in the experience of living divinely. And to live divinely means actually to live the will of God. Now, in the final last piece, to material, evolutionary, finite creatures, a life predicated on the living of the Father's will leads directly to the attainment of spirit supremacy in the personality arena, and brings such creatures one step nearer the comprehension of the Father-infinite. Such a Father life is one predicated on truth, sensitive to beauty, and dominated by goodness. Such a God-knowing person is inwardly illuminated by worship and outwardly devoted to the wholehearted service of the universal brotherhood of all personalities, a service ministry which is filled with mercy and motivated by love, while all these life qualities are unified in the evolving personality on ever-ascending levels of cosmic wisdom, self-realization, God-finding, and Father worship. And we have come to the end of reading this paper 106. All the information has been presented to us by a Melchizedek of Nebadon. And thank you so much, Melchizedek of Nebadon, for giving us this information. And thank you to all of you for listening to this audio video. My excuses for the many interruptions, background disturbances, and for my fast reading, but otherwise I would sit here more than 2 hours for reading one paper. All right, I wish you all a beautiful, joyful, and loving day, and that all the things that you are doing will be done in accordance and in full alignment with the will of God the Father in heaven. And God bless you.